Hello there, Year 3, and welcome to the final text for this term. This is going to be Victorian Academy. So as usual, we're going to read through the text, then we're going to go through and see how we can achieve full marks for each of the answers. So this is set A of Victorian Academy. So here we go. Now that you can't send your little ones up a chimney or down a mine, where can you be sure they'll learn equally tough lessons in life? Victorian Academy, formerly the Ragged School, is the answer you should have given. Now write it out 100 times. Ours is a school with values, Victorian values. But, as we approach the end of both the century and Queen Victoria's reign, we also want to look forward to the future. That is why we promise the very best in modern teaching. Lessons for today's Britain. As you would expect, we have a clear focus on the 3 R's: reading, writing, and arithmetic. However, we also believe that the 3 D's are just as important: discipline, dullness, and the dunce's hat. Our children enjoy a wide range of English lessons, from copying down what is written on the blackboard to copying down what the teacher is saying. In maths, they experience the sheer joy of chanting times tables for hours on end. In topic, they might also be learning exciting lessons about the world around them and reciting the names of all the stations on a given railway line. Woo, woo. Stern staff, hand-picked for their meanness and scary scowls. Our super strict teachers make sure the first thing the children learn is not to breathe without permission. Regular use of the cane ensures that only colour in their lessons is black and blue. We also value experience in our teaching support staff, much more than skill or knowledge. Most of them will have been pupils themselves very recently and will be keen to give as good as they got last year. No room for fun. We offer the perfect setting for our focused learning. Our cold, drab classrooms can pack in up to 60 pupils at a time. They have high-set windows to prevent children getting distracted by anything of interest, and of course, we keep boys and girls as far apart as possible. When you send your children to the Victorian Academy, you can rest assured that they will hate every minute of it, as every child should. What's more, with all the repetition, misery, and harsh rules, you can be sure they'll never learn to think for themselves. There is simply no better preparation for today's workplace. Victorian Academy. It's free, isn't it? What did you expect? And there we go. That was fun, wasn't it? So, let's go through the questions and see how we can achieve full marks for each answer. Vocabulary, question 1. Look at the first paragraph. Find and copy a word that means hard. Look at the first paragraph. Find and copy a word that means hard. So we're going to have a look back through which paragraph? The first paragraph, that's right. So we're going to take a look and see which word means the same thing as hard. So let's just double check. Now that you can send your little ones up, down chimney for a mine, where shall there be equally tough lessons in life? That's the word tough that we need to write down there. So number 1, the word is tough. Number 2, regular use of the cane. What does regular mean? Regular use of the cane. What does regular mean? This is one of those ones we need to know. Hopefully we know what the word regular means. That's quite straightforward. What the word regular means, you should know what that word means. So basically it's just another word for often. So basically I've just put the children were often hit with a cane. That's basically what it means. So often, okay, it means regular. So it means it happens frequently, repeatedly. Okay, question 3. You can rest assured. Which group of words means the same as rest assured? Tick 1. You can rest assured. Which group of words means the same as rest assured? Tick 1. So again, we can just have another look and think what that might mean. So rest assured. The only one, I'm afraid, once again, you need to know what this means, rest assured. It is to be confident. That's the one, to be confident, okay? Sit back was a close one, I think. Definitely not tell them and definitely not scare them. But if you can rest assured, it's almost like saying you can guarantee or you can be sure Okay, you can be confident that this is going to happen. Okay, so that's what it means to be rest assured. Right, retrieval. Question 4. Where can parents no longer send their children? Where can parents no longer send their children? So the answer to this one, if you read the first line again, so now that you can't send your little ones up a chimney or down a mine, where can they no longer send them? It is up a chimney or down a mine. Very clear, right at the first line. So literally just write down up a chimney or down a mine. That'll get you the mark. Question 5. What were the 3 Ds? What were the 3 Ds? So again, if you just look back to where it says the 3 Ds in the text, it's actually got some inverted commas around it. So it's very clear to see where it says the 3 Ds if you look. It is in that section saying lessons for today's Britain. The 3 Ds are just as important, and it says there right there in the text: discipline, dullness, and the dunce's hat. Okay, so those are the 3 Ds. I'd literally copy that exactly as it is: discipline, dullness, and the dunce's hat. That gets you the mark. Those are the 3 Ds that's listed. Question 6. What does it say children might learn in topic? What does it say children might learn in topic? So again, I need to find where that is in the text. Where was it saying about topic? So it says in that same section of lessons for today's Britain, the very last line: in topic, they might also learn exciting lessons about the world around them by reciting the names of all the stations on a given railway line. So what are they learning in topic? It is literally what it says there. Again, it's find and copy, it's retrieval, isn't it? Okay, so they might learn exciting lessons about the world around them. So they might be learning about the world around them, and by reciting the names of all the stations on a given railway. I think I wrote the entire thing down. Let me just check. I wrote the world around them by reciting the names of all the stations on a given railway line. That's exactly what I wrote. So it's literally retrieving that answer, pull it from the text, write it down. Right, question 7. Now write it out 100 times. How does this sentence make the reader feel about the academy? So inference, question 7. Now write it out 100 times. How does this sentence make the reader feel about the academy? So think about the way that I read that line to you, okay? Think about how I was reading it. Now I know I sort of went into a bit of a character there, trying to put you into what it was like in the Victorian era. But yeah, think about how that sounded. Now write it out 100 times, okay? It's telling you to write it out 100 times, isn't it? So how does that make it seem? How does it make the academy seem? Okay, so it actually makes it seem quite strict, doesn't it? It's quite a high discipline place to be, isn't it? It's so disciplined, in fact, that it's telling you to write it out 100 times. You, the reader, write it out 100 times, okay? That's how strict it is. They're even having a go at you for reading it, okay? So here's what I wrote down. I said, it makes the academy seem very strict, almost like the reader is being told off. So quite clear, that's what it is, isn't it? It's about how strict it is. Right. Question 8. Look at the section headed Lessons for Today's Britain. What does it suggest about the English lessons? Look at the section headed Lessons for Today's Britain. What does it suggest about the English lessons? So again, I'm just going to look for that section headed Today's Britain. There it is, Lessons for Today's Britain. And what does it suggest about English lessons? So if you read through it about what it is, so our children enjoy a wide range of English lessons, from copying down what is written on the blackboard to copying down what the teacher is saying. So what does that suggest about the lessons? Okay, what does that suggest? It says our children enjoy a wide range of English lessons. Do you think they are actually enjoying it? Definitely not. Okay, it's trying to say they're enjoying it, but really, you know, as children, that's not enjoyable, is it? If you were just asked to sit down right now and copy everything I'm saying, if I said, right, get your pencil, get your paper, I want you to write down everything I'm saying, that would get very boring and it would get really difficult, wouldn't it, eventually, have to keep writing everything, okay? I don't think you'd enjoy that at all if I asked you to do that. So no, that is not true, is it? That is just the person writing this trying to make you seem that it's all enjoyable, but it's not, okay? He's trying to entice you to send your child to this Victorian academy when really, you know, it's not going to be an enjoyable thing. So here's what I wrote. I said it suggests that they are boring and always involved doing the same thing all day, such as copying down what the teacher says or by chanting times tables for hours on end. That was another point, wasn't it? Charting times tables for hours on end. Hours, not just like 15, 20 minutes, okay, like we do in school. Hours, okay? So that's all you'd be doing for maybe 2 or 3 hours. That's a long time, isn't it? And that you'd get really, really repetitive and boring, okay? So that is why boring is a key word in that one. You need to be saying how boring it is. Right. Question 9. Look at the last paragraph. What do you think jobs in Victorian Britain were like? Look at the last paragraph. What do you think jobs in Victorian Britain were like? So I'm going to be looking at the last paragraph and I'm going to read that again. When you send your children to the Victorian Academy, you can rest assured they will hate every minute of it, as every child should. What's more, with all the repetition, misery and harsh rules, you can be sure they'll never learn to think for themselves. There is simply no better preparation for today's workplace. So what does that suggest about the British workplace in Victorian Britain? So it suggests to me that they're quite repetitive. It means they go on and on and on. It's the same thing over and over again. If it's simply no preparation for today's workplace and that's what we're doing in school, then that must be what the workplace is like. Okay, here's what I wrote. I said they were repetitive and miserable with harsh rules and didn't encourage people to think for themselves. That's another thing it said in there, wasn't it? You'll never learn to think for yourself. Okay, so that's what the jobs must have been like. Okay, question 10. Summarising. So here are some summaries of different paragraphs in the text. Number them from 1 to 4 to show the order in which they appear in the text. So we're going to read through those statements and we're going to try and work out the order in which they appear. So statements are: Victorian school lessons were boring, Victorian schoolrooms were dull, Victorian teachers were strict and horrible, the Victorian Academy is a modern school for the 1890s. So if we look through the text, let's see if we can find the order in which those statements appear. So now, just keep those in our minds. We're looking for anything about being boring, dull, or strict and horrible, modern school. So the first one is going to be that last point, I believe. If you look at the very line underneath it, so it's the subheading underneath Victorian Academy, it says a new school for the 1890s, doesn't it? Okay, and that's quite clearly what it says there. The Victorian Academy is a modern school for the 1890s. That one is going to be my point 1, isn't it? That's right at the top. Okay, before we even get into the text, that point is clarified. Point 2. It's looking like nothing in the first 2 paragraphs. It's going to be the next one being in the lessons for today's Britain, and that is where it's going on about how boring the lessons are. If you think about how it's talking about how you copy down things from what the teacher's saying, how you chant out the times tables, it's all about how boring it is, the thing we've just pointed out. So that's your number 2. Victorian school lessons were boring. Number 3, Victorian teachers were strict and horrible is going to come next, isn't it? That subheading again, stern staff. That means to be strict and horrible, to be stern. That's talking about the teachers then. And then the point 4 is going to be that the schoolrooms were dull, because it actually says there, again, another subheading, no room for fun. That means it's dull, doesn't it? Okay, so there you go. It should be the order of 2, 4, 3, 1. Okay, predict. Question 11. What do you think parents would say about the Victorian Academy if they were A, living in Victorian times, or B, living now? So, again, this is not something that I can actually take from the text this time. This is asking, what do you think based on what you've read? So if you were living in Victorian times, and so you've got to imagine now you're a parent, okay, how would you feel if you were living in the Victorian times, if you were living in the 1890s, and you were going to send your child to school, and you live in Victorian times, how would you feel about the school? Okay, so if you were a parent back then, you'd actually think it's quite good because that's clearly what it was like back then. That was how school was, and that's how children were raised. So that is absolutely what you would expect your child to go through. So you'd think that's really good. So I wrote, they think it's good because schools should be harsh and strict. And if you were living now, so that's just how do you feel now if you were a parent? Would you send your child there today? I'd almost certainly think no. I don't think you'd want to be in school during Victorian era right now. Be very, very different to what you're used to. So I said, that's terrible. I'm not sending my children there. Okay? If I was a parent, that's exactly what I'd say. And no way I'm sending my child there. If the school was like that today, I'd find somewhere else that's much nicer and actually encourages my child to think for themselves. And there you go. That's the end of the comprehension text for set A. So thank you very much for tuning in. Next week will be the final bit of our pixel related text. This is the last video I'll be doing next week, and that'll be set B of the Victorian Academy, so it'll be a brand new set of questions linked to this. So tune in next week, take care, and I will see you then.